Right now, while you are watching this, God is looking directly at you. He stopped everything to look at you in this exact place. He has something He needs you to hear, something no one in your life has ever had the courage to say to you. Not your parents, not your closest friend. Stay. This message found you today for a reason. Have you ever been surrounded by people laughing and celebrating and felt completely hollow inside? Not sad, not angry, just empty. Like you were standing behind a glass wall, watching everyone else exist in a world you could see but never quite touch. They moved naturally. They belonged. And you stood there smiling at the right moments, saying the right words, wondering why it never felt real. You have felt this not just once, but your whole life. At gatherings where everyone seemed at home, and you felt like a visitor who came to the wrong address. In friendships where you gave everything, and still left feeling like something was missing. In relationships where you loved fully and still lay awake, with a quiet ache you could never name. The hardest part, you could never explain it. Your life looked fine from the outside, so you carried it alone and told yourself maybe everyone feels this way. But here is what God has already confirmed about you, and I am not using poetic words to comfort you. That feeling of not belonging, that constant ache of being in the wrong place, the wrong time, the wrong version of the world, that is not a flaw, that is a signal. The soul that cannot find its place in this world was not made to fit in. It was made to change it. God says in Jeremiah 29:11, "For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord. Plans to prosper you and not to harm you. Plans to give you hope and a future." He did not say comfortable. He said hope and a future. Something ahead of you that this present place simply cannot contain. If you have ever loved someone who did not deserve it and could not hate them, if you have ever helped the person who hurt you and sat alone, wondering what was happening to you, if you have ever walked into a room and felt the weight of every person in it without them saying a word, this video did not reach you by accident. Stay. I want to describe something. Tell me if this sounds like your life. You grew up feeling different. Not different in the way people celebrate. Different in the quiet, heavy way nobody around you understood. After a while, you stopped explaining it, because it only made people look at you like you were the problem. You felt things too deeply. Things that slipped off other people stayed with you for days. A careless word from someone who forgot. They said it was still with you 3 days later. You replayed conversations not because you were insecure, but because you cared about the truth underneath what people were saying. And the world called that overthinking, sensitivity, too much. You were never too much. You were operating at a depth that most people around you were not built for. You held back your real thoughts, not because you had nothing to say, because you had learned what happens when you are honest. People got uncomfortable, so you became skilled at being the version of yourself that rooms could handle. Do you remember the last time you sat in a celebration and felt absolutely nothing? Not unhappy, not ungrateful, just hollow. You smiled when they smiled, raised your glass when they raised theirs. But inside you were somewhere else entirely. You have never told anyone about that moment. But you know exactly what I mean. That hollow feeling was your soul recognizing it was in the wrong room. Not because something was wrong with the people around you. Not because something was wrong with you. But because you were built for a frequency the room simply could not reach. Let me name the invisible wounds. The ones no one talks about because they do not look like wounds from the outside. Being called too sensitive when you were simply being honest. Pouring yourself into person after person, then sitting alone wondering who would ever show up for you the same way. Doing the right thing in silence, while someone louder received all the recognition, staying long after you knew it was over. Not because you were weak, but because you do not abandon people, even when they have already left you on the inside, and slowly beginning to believe the most painful thing, that there was something wrong with you. That belief is the lie. And today, God is asking you to put it down. Isaiah 49:1, before I was born, the Lord called me. From my mother's womb, He spoke my name. Before any of this happened, before the confusion and the long nights, before the quiet feeling that you were almost but never enough, God already knew your name. He already called it. He already had a plan that nothing can cancel. The loneliness you were ashamed of is not a wound. It is a signature. The exact mark of a soul made for something this world has not yet made room for. Everything you just recognized in yourself, the depth that exhausted people around you, the love that was not returned, the integrity that cost more than it should. None of that is damage. All of that is evidence of a soul carrying a frequency this world rarely encounters and almost never knows what to do with. You were not broken by what you have been through. You were being prepared. If this described your life in a way no one ever has, write yes in the comments now. Not for me, for yourself. A declaration that you are done believing the lie that your depth is a defect. Subscribe and turn on all notifications. What comes next will show you exactly why God allowed everything that made you feel out of place, and what He built in you that required all of it. Share this with one person carrying this same quiet weight. Those made for something bigger always find each other. That is not coincidence. That is His design. What I am about to tell you is not encouragement. It is a spiritual reality that has been operating in your life since before you took your first breath. And once you hear it, you will not be able to look at your story the same way again. Before you were born, before your soul stepped into this body, there was a conversation in the spiritual dimension. A deliberate one. Your soul was given a choice. The same choice that countless other souls were given and declined. Because the assignment required something that most souls, when shown the full weight of what it would cost, quietly stepped back from. Your soul stepped forward, willingly and fully aware. You deserve to understand why your life has felt the way it has. Why the things that should have broken you did not. Why the weight you carry has always been heavier than what the people around you were carrying. There is a reason. The reason is not punishment. The reason is preparation. Do you know why the people chosen to carry light are often the ones who have walked through the most darkness? It is a precise design. Light is not forged in peace. It is forged in pressure. God does not send a soul into a world of suffering to bring healing if that soul has never learned what suffering feels like from the inside. You learned, you know, not from a distance, from inside it. You know what it feels like to stay when everything in you wants to leave. You know what it feels like to hope when the evidence says stop. That knowing can only be lived, and you have lived it. God did not send you here to be comfortable. He sent you because you were the one willing to carry what this world needed carried. There are three qualities that cannot, by any ordinary logic, exist together in one person. The first, you have been deeply hurt, and you did not become bitter. By every normal survival response, you should have closed. You should have hardened. But you did not close. You stayed open. You kept loving. Not because you did not feel the hurt, but because something in you cannot abandon love, even when love has cost you everything. That is not weakness. That is a quality most people spend their entire lives trying to develop and never reach. The second, you see the reality of this world clearly. and you have not lost faith. People who see clearly usually look away because seeing is too painful, or they see and become hardened. You did neither. You kept believing, not naively, but your belief survived the evidence against it. That is a rare endurance most souls do not carry. The third, you keep giving when nothing is being given back. You have counted the cost in quiet moments, but something in you chooses to give anyway. From a place so deep it operates beneath reason and beneath self-interest. Your core has never been successfully negotiated with. By normal logic, these three things cannot coexist. A person who is hurt closes. A person who sees clearly becomes realistic. A person who gives without return eventually stops. That is the normal sequence. But you are not following it, and that is not an accident. God says in Romans 8:28, "And we know that in all things God works for the good of those who love him, who have been called according to his purpose." All things, including the betrayals, including the long seasons of silence, including the nights when you could not explain why you still believed. All of it was building something in you that could not have been built any other way. Now, I want to show you the evidence. Evidence already written in the pattern of your own life, because patterns do not lie. Sign 1. People in pain find you. They come to you. Strangers tell you things they have never told anyone. Family members call you, not the others. When something is breaking, there is something in your presence that makes people feel safe enough to be honest. Most people go their entire lives without creating that kind of safety in others. You create it without trying. Sign 2. You know things without being told. You feel what is happening beneath the surface. You hear someone say they are fine and know with certainty that they are not. You have spent years doubting this. But look at how many times that quiet knowing turned out to be exactly right. You were not imagining it. You were receiving information that most people around you were not equipped to receive. Sign 3. You are still here. Look at the moments that were supposed to break something permanent in you, the season you were certain you would not get through. And yet here you are, still capable of hope, still capable of love. That is not ordinary resilience. That is a quality being preserved in you on purpose. Sign 4. You have been in the right place at the right time to help someone, even when you were the one who needed help. Look at the precision of those moments. The right words, to the right person, at the right time. That precision is not accidental. Sign 5, and this is the one to hold. You cannot make peace with compromise. You have tried, but you could not take the easier path and feel whole. Other people adjust their values and move forward, but you carry a discomfort with compromise that does not fade. That discomfort is not a burden, it is a compass. Your soul was built with a specific orientation that no amount of pressure has erased. God says in Psalm 139:14, "I praise you because I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Your works are wonderful. I know that full well. Fearfully and wonderfully made." Not accidentally made with specific intention, specific design, for a specific reason. The patterns in your life you have been reading as failures are the fingerprints of a God who has been building something extraordinary in you without asking your permission. There is a specific reason you feel like you do not belong in the life you have been living. It has nothing to do with anything being wrong with you. You were placed here to shift something, to change the temperature of every room you walk into. A seed from a tree that will one day stand 50 feet tall does not feel like it belongs in a small pot, because it does not. Its roots require space the pot cannot provide. That restlessness is not the seed's failure. It is the seed's nature expressing itself against a container that was never built for it. You are not too much. You have simply been in spaces that were not built for what you carry. There are 3 specific roles that souls like yours are prepared for. One of these will feel like recognition. The healer is the person whose presence alone changes the quality of a space. They do not announce they are there to help. The environment simply shifts around them. People nearby find themselves saying things they did not plan to say, making decisions they had been postponing, releasing something they had been holding. The cycle breaker is the person who ends what has been going on for generations. Patterns of pain passing through families, the same wound in different forms across different decades, until someone decides it ends here. At some point, by choice or by character, they become the generation where the pattern stops. The pathfinder goes first, into possibilities the people around them cannot yet see. They experience the loneliness of those who go ahead. They make the road by walking it, and because of them, the people who come after have proof that the destination is real. Look back at your life, not at where you fell short. Look at where your presence changed something. The person who chose differently because you stayed, the stranger who walked away carrying something they did not have before. Your purpose is not something you have been missing. It is something you have already been living. You simply needed someone to tell you that is what it was. God says in Ephesians 20:10, "For we are God's handiwork, created in Christ Jesus to do good works, which God prepared in advance for us to do." Prepared in advance before the confusion, before the searching. The work was already waiting. The life you have been living has been preparing you to do it. Your purpose was never lost. It was always operating. You just needed someone to finally say out loud what God has been building in you this whole time. This is not happening on your timeline. It is not happening after you have sorted out everything that feels unfinished. It is happening now. God does not wait until you are perfect. He uses the exact version of you that is showing up today, with everything you are carrying and everything you have already survived. The fact that you are still watching is not random. The fact that what I am describing matches something living in your chest for years without a name is not coincidence. Something is being activated right now. The invitation extended to you in this moment is simply this: stop waiting for permission to become what you already are. I want to talk about what actually changes, not in a vague sense, the concrete, daily, real sense, because you have heard enough beautiful words that changed nothing. What I want to give you is what alignment actually looks like when it starts happening in your life. Most people get wrong about purpose. They think finding it is the destination. They imagine one day something will click and everything will be clear and easy. But alignment is not a destination. It is a direction, and the moment you stop squeezing yourself into spaces not built for your shape, your daily experience begins to shift, not dramatically at first, quietly. The way a room changes when someone finally opens a window, let me tell you specifically what that shift looks like for someone exactly like you. The first thing that changes is the people around you. The relationships that have been draining you, the ones where you give and leave feeling less than when you arrived, will begin to naturally resolve themselves. You will not have to create confrontation. You will not have to announce anything. Something in your energy will simply stop accommodating what it used to accommodate. The people who were only present because you were making yourself small will gradually find their own reasons to move on. This is not loss. This is the space being cleared for what actually belongs. The right people begin to arrive, not because you went looking, but because you stopped hiding. When a person starts living at their actual frequency instead of the one they learned to perform, they become findable. The people searching for exactly what you carry. the ones navigating this same depth and finding no one who spoke their language, will find you. The recognition will go deeper than normal friendship. It will feel like coming home. The second thing that changes is that hollow feeling from the beginning of this journey, that space no amount of success or achievement has ever filled. That hollowness was never asking to be filled by something external. It was asking to be acknowledged. When you start living with intention about who you are and why you are here, that space does not fill overnight, but it begins to settle. The restlessness quiets. Not because the questions are gone, but because the direction becomes clear. The third thing that changes is how you carry your difference. For most of your life, being different has felt like something to explain, to apologize for. But difference that is understood is not a burden. It is a resource. The sensitivity that made you feel like too much in certain rooms is exactly what allows you to see what no one else sees, to say what people needed to hear but did not know they needed until you said it. The person you already are was built for something specific. You were not made wrong. You were made rare. Rare things are not comfortable in ordinary containers. They were built to be seen in the right light. God says in Isaiah 43:1, "But now, this is what the Lord says. He who created you, do not fear, for I have redeemed you. I have called you by name, you are mine, called by name." Not as a category, not as a type, by your specific name. That is the kind of attention that does not get distracted. That is the kind of knowing that does not forget. Now I want to tell you something most people will not say, because the temptation is always to leave people feeling only good. But you deserve honesty more than you deserve comfort. When you start living in alignment with who you actually are, it will not become easier. Hear that clearly so that when the resistance comes, you do not interpret it as a wrong turn. Living purposefully does not eliminate challenge. It clarifies it. Before alignment, you were exhausted by living in a way that did not fit you. After alignment, you will be stretched by the work of becoming who you were made to be. These are not the same kind of tired. One drains you, the other builds you. The difference is this: before, you were carrying weight without a reason you could name. From here forward, every hard thing you walk through will have a context. It will be building something specific in you. Part of a story you can understand even when you cannot yet see where it is going. And here is the first step. Not the whole journey, just the first step. Stop telling yourself that old story. The one that says you arrived at the wrong time, that you are too much for the people who should have been able to hold you. That story is not true. It was never true. It was the story you told to make sense of pain that had not yet revealed its purpose. The new story begins with one sentence. Not something you have to feel in order to say it. Say it quietly right now. I was not made to fit into this world. I was made to transform it. Say it again if you need to. Say it until something in you recognizes it as true. Because it is true. You have already been living it. You simply did not know that is what it was. I want to close with something real. Not a summary. Something personal right now. Wherever you are, whatever is still unresolved and heavy, you made it here. You did not have to stay, but something in you said stay. Something recognized that what was being said here was not entertainment, it was truth. And truth has a specific gravity. It pulls at something in us that ordinary words cannot reach. That pull is not coincidence. Hear this now, as fact about who you are. You are not broken. You never were. You are not too late. Not even close. You are in the exact story written for someone with your specific combination of depth and endurance and love. The reason it has felt heavy is not because the story is wrong. It is because the story matters. Small stories do not carry this kind of weight. Only the ones that mean something create this kind of pressure. God says in Zephaniah 3:17, "The Lord your God is with you. He is mighty to save. He will take great delight in you. He will quiet you with his love. He will rejoice over you with singing, rejoicing over you with singing, not waiting for you to get it right first, rejoicing over you right now. In this exact condition, with everything you have not yet figured out still present and real. That is the kind of love that does not make sense by human logic. The kind placed inside you and reflected back into the world your whole life, even when no one reflected it back to you. That persistent, unreasonable love you keep extending to people who have not always deserved it. It did not come from you. It came through you. It is the signature of something much larger, moving through the life that is yours. God has been singing over you this whole time. You just could not hear it through all the noise of trying to become someone this world would finally accept. And if you are feeling that particular kind of tired right now, not the tired that sleep fixes, but the tired that comes from carrying something meaningful for a long time, I want to say this directly. You are allowed to rest in this. You do not have to earn the right to belong to what you are already made for. The belonging was written before you arrived. The work now is simply allowing yourself to receive it. Here is what I am asking you to do right now. In this moment, before you close this video, or move on to the next thing, if what you heard today described you in a way no one ever has, write "made for more" in the comments right now. Not for visibility, not as a performance. As a private declaration between you and the part of yourself that already knows, this is true. A quiet act of agreement with the story God has been writing in you since before you arrived. Like this video. Every time you do, you help bring this message to someone carrying the same quiet weight you have been carrying. Someone who might be one conversation away from changing the direction of their life. Subscribe and turn on every notification. Because there is more, there is always more. And what comes next is for exactly the person you are becoming. Share this with one person. The one who comes to your mind right now. Someone who carries this same depth and has not yet been told that the depth is the gift. You sending it to them is not a small thing. It is the pathfinder in you making the road a little wider for someone coming right behind you. This is what chosen ones do. They do not arrive and keep the light to themselves. They turn around and make sure the people still walking can see where the road goes. And that is exactly who you are. God says in Matthew 5:14, "You are the light of the world." A town built on a hill cannot be hidden. You cannot be hidden. You are not made to be hidden. Every attempt this world has made to convince you to make yourself smaller has failed. Here you are, still carrying the light, still watching, still believing there is more. There is. It starts right now.